Our keynote speaker is Sam Matheny. Sam is Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at the National Association of Broadcasters. He leads NAB's technology team in efforts to promote innovation and propel broadcast technology into the future. He also provides overall leadership for Pilot, formerly NAB Labs, as well as NAB's TV, radio, and digital technology committees. Before joining NAB, Sam was Vice President of Policy and Innovation for Capital Broadcasting in North Carolina. Sam holds a BS in Communications from East Carolina University and an MS in Technology Management from North Carolina State University. In 2007, he was named an American Marshall Memorial Fellow. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Sam Matheny.
Good morning. Come on, y'all got to do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. It's great to be at the NAB show, and I really appreciate you being here this early on a Sunday morning. All right, well, we are glad to be here at the NAB show, and it is my honor to welcome you to this great event, and specifically to the Broadcast Engineering Conference. We've got some superb sessions, and I'm sure they are going to educate and enlighten. I'm excited about this conference and the programming. I'm excited about the massive amount of exhibit space that we have. Everything from virtual and augmented reality to the latest in drones to the innovative ideas on display in our very own Futures Park. And you may have heard of this little thing called ATSC 3.0. We've got that too. And I'm going to talk more about that in a bit. As we begin, I want to thank the technology team at the NAB. These are true professionals that work tirelessly for the benefit of our industry and our members. I'm only in my second year at the NAB, and not a day goes by that I don't learn something from these amazing people. I need to call extra special attention to one of our team members, the team member who more than anyone else is responsible for so much of the great programming at this Broadcast Engineering Conference, John Marino. Many of you know John's work with this conference, but he also organizes other conferences too. The Future of Cinema Conference. Who saw Ang Lee yesterday? Right? 4K, 3D, 120 frames per second, future of cinema. That is the type of work that John Marino brings to this NAB show. Media management for military and government and content in the cloud or other programs, and he also brought the Post-Production World Conference to the NAB show. John works on the technology luncheon and also helped us launch a brand new conference this year, the Digital Futures Exchange. And it doesn't stop there. Beyond this show, John also programs NAB Futures, NAB Show New York, NAB Radio Show, and you will hear his silky smooth voice in so many of the videos you'll see at these shows. He also helped found the NAB's Cybersecurity Working Group. That group just started, and we have already had 2 cybersecurity white papers and our first ever webinar on broadcast cybersecurity earlier this year. John is our Vice President of Technology, and he is attending his 40th NAB show. John will be retiring at the end of this year after 25 years with the NAB. John's career in broadcasting spans over 50 years, and he has done it all, from DJ to producer to technologist to engineer. He started with the NAB in 1991 and has been programming our conferences since 1994 when he took on the role of Director of Technical Conferences. In 1996, John was promoted to Vice President of Science and Technology, and we have all benefited from knowing and working with John. He's smart, well-spoken, funny, and a pleasure to work with. You know, your typical engineer. John has so many friends here, and I know you will all take the time to thank him for his service and to congratulate him on his plans to take some time for himself and his family. But please, don't say goodbye. Say, see you next year, because I'm already trying to recruit him to stay on board as a consultant to keep the string of successful shows going. Again, thank you, John. Next, I want to thank our Broadcast Engineering Conference Planning Committee, and in particular, a special nod to Alan Jurison of iHeartMedia for his leadership as chairman of the committee. Thanks as well to John Perret and our friends at the Society of Broadcast Engineering for their collaboration and co-production of this event with us. And finally, allow me to express my gratitude for our 3 standing committee chairmen who provide so much great leadership for our industry. Mike Cooney of Beasley chairs our Radio Engineering Committee. Dave Siegler of Cox chairs our Television Engineering Committee. And Mark Turner of Media General chairs our Next Generation Broadcast Profile Committee. To all of these people and so many more, please join me with a round of applause. Thank you. This past year, we really lost a legend in our industry. And I'm talking about Ernie Jones, who was a principal at Consolidated Engineering and one of the most experienced and respected tower engineers in the world. In the days following Ernie's death, I spent a lot of time on the phone talking with so many people about what an exceptional person and an amazing engineer he was, and about the great loss that we had suffered. We don't often recognize those we have lost at this show. It really just, in most cases, isn't the right forum. In fact, the last time we did this, or something like this, was after 9/11. And I can't tell you when, if ever, we will do this again. But I think it's appropriate to pause today, to create time and space to celebrate and honor Ernie and his contributions to our industry.
He had the ability to take something that seemed somewhat complicated and complex and break it down into parts, and then he had the patience to share that knowledge with other people.
His integrity, his honesty, his genius for engineering, all of these things together made Ernie a very exceptional man.
Last year, broadcasting lost one of its giants, a Renaissance man whose impact on the industry was only exceeded by his passion for life and family. Ernie Jones was widely known in the broadcast industry, having designed and overseen the fabrication of more than 3,000 towers.
There's lots of people out there that can design towers. There are a lot of people who can analyze towers. But Ernie was a cross between the tower rigger and the engineer. And Ernie thoroughly understood how to work on towers.
You could tell he knew his science down cold and was supremely confident in his ability to engineer solutions to complex problems.
Ernie received his BSME from Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology.
He's in the Rose-Hulman Hall of Fame for track and field as an athlete.
Ernie gave his all in everything that he did. He was an avid and enthusiastic kayaker. A love of horses led to a passion for ranching.
We met at a calf roping seminar. Ernie was already a great horseman and roper. Over the next several years, we spent a lot of time in the saddle, trail riding and herding cattle. Ernie threw a mean loop, usually catching a cow in the first throw. Me, not so much. But he was a great teacher and was always patient with me. He taught me many things, but I think the most important was to stay calm.
One of Ernie's greatest contributions was one that very few people knew about.
In Baltimore, there's a 1,000-foot candelabra with a 100-foot top.
In late 1999, the stations began the process of removing the existing analog antennas and adding the stacked VHF-UHF antennas for the DTV transition. On the morning of the first antenna change, disaster struck.
John Byrne from CBS Television in New York City was involved in this project.
"Ernie," he said, "we have a real mess here in Baltimore, and you're the only one, frankly, I trust to get us out of it."
He came to me in my office and he told me what had happened. And he said, "Tom, I want to do this project more than anything else I've ever wanted to do in my life."
All this happened the day before a hurricane was supposed to come up the coast. It wasn't a happy time. Ernie, like the proverbial structural white knight, arrived at the site late that afternoon.
We sat there at the table and the manager said, "All right, gentlemen, we have Ernie Jones and Tom Sullivan, VRI's second opinion."
His face was white as a ghost, and he said, "You don't know how very lucky you are that this tower isn't laying in a pile here on the ground."
I think we need to take some time and analyze this failure to make sure that we know exactly what happened so that everything is done safely the next time around. And the foreman sort of shook his head and gave me the look like dirtbag.
Several mistakes had been made by the structural engineer that had been hired to design the tower and oversee the work.
So I said, well, let's call the company that supplied it. So we talked to their engineer and they said, "There's nothing wrong with that fall section. It's a perfectly good 75-foot candelabra fall section." We analyzed the fall section and we realized that Ernie came to me and ran into my office. He said, "Oh my God," he said, "this fall section was clearly in buckling."
So much force was applied during the initial pick that 20 of the 24 bolts that held the crane to the top plate of the supporting tower section snapped.
He said the only thing that saved that tower was that derrick falling over. It was ready to go.
He ultimately guided the tower crew through the successful removal and reinstallation of the 3 antenna stacks. He later used the lessons he learned to help rewrite many of the lifting guidelines used by the National Association of Tower Erectors and the EIA.
And if Ernie hadn't have doggedly forced them to do everything by the book, if they'd welded that crane, the fall section would have buckled, the crew would have been killed, the tower would have fallen down. It would have been the worst national tower disaster in the history of towers in the United States of America.
Ernie's contributions to our industry will far outlive him.
His number one contribution was making installing equipment on big towers much more predictable and much safer.
Ernie was a driving force in helping to write the book on tower standards. As a member of NATE, he was driven to trying to make the industry and the work safer.
Ernie's calm demeanor carried through whether he was building a barbed wire fence, breaking a 2-year-old thoroughbred colt, or climbing a tall tower.
Ernie was an exceptional engineer. I don't think there'll ever be another Ernie Jones.
And as awful a tragedy as losing Ernie was, there is no doubt that he died the way he lived, on a tall tower doing what he loved. And that love for broadcasting is something that we all share. It is what drives us to be the best, most reliable source of information for the communities and the nations that we serve. It is why we put in the long hours, suffer the details, create, innovate, and deliver solutions that matter. And our work touches millions of people every day. Because of your efforts, our industry is strong and getting stronger. Nielsen reports that over 1.7 million new homes have migrated to over-the-air broadcasting in the last couple of years. And GfK's Home Technology Survey says that 21% of U.S. television households, some 66 million people, rely directly on over-the-air broadcasting. Of course, all of this is in addition to the people we reach through our partners with cable and satellite and other distribution partners. As Perry Sook, CEO of Nexstar, recently pointed out, broadcast is the original OTT. So if the cord-cutting and shaving phenomenon continues, we are well positioned, and we have been from the start. And in radio, Magid recently completed a study that clearly shows that despite all of the hype around Pandora and Spotify and other pure-play streaming companies, that AM/FM broadcast radio is king. Nearly 3/4 of people said it was the most important audio source in the car, some 2.5 times greater than other sources, even with more people tuning in each and every week. And broadcasters stream too. We average listen times that beat the pure play streamers. Triton Digital Webcast Metrics reported that iHeart has an average listen time of over 41 minutes, and that's 13% higher than Pandora. But let's not get too comfortable. To the contrary, I invite you to be uncomfortable, restless, and, well, maybe a bit paranoid. Andy Grove, the legendary CEO and chairman of Intel, believed this so much that he even entitled one of his books, Only the Paranoid Survive. That book addressed the reinvention of Intel from a memory business to a semiconductor business and detailed the birth of Intel Inside. I believe it is precisely when we are uncomfortable that we learn and grow the most. We can't sit idle when we're uncomfortable. We need to do something about it. We need to make it better. Put another way, Thomas Edison said, restlessness and discontent are the first necessities of progress. It is why Ernie wrote the book on erecting towers safely. It is why encoder designers are improving compression. It is why video quality keeps getting better through more pixels, high dynamic range, wide color gamut, greater bit depth, and higher frame rates. It is why transmitters are now solid state, more energy efficient, and software upgradable. It is also in part why we at the NAB chose to draft a vision statement for our technology department to guide our work and focus. Here it is. We improve lives through broadcast technology and broadcaster innovation. We improve lives through broadcast technology and broadcaster innovation. Now, breaking this down a little bit, while we may deal in a world of microphones and cameras and master controls and transmitters, we're really serving our communities. We're really doing everything that we do with the ultimate goal of improving the lives of those around us. And we do this through broadcast technology and broadcaster innovation. Broadcast technology encompasses things like HD radio and its improved audio quality, additional program channels, rich artist experience, and weather and traffic data services. It also includes the next generation television standard, ATSC 3.0, and the move to IP transport, immersive audio, ultra-high definition video, and an interactive runtime environment to enable engaging experiences. Now, broadcaster innovation includes the development and deployment of broadcast technology like those I just mentioned, but it goes much further. Today, broadcasters are multi-platform digital media companies that operate on the web, on mobile phones, on social media, and on a whole host of streaming appliances. And these are things that are coming together with traditional broadcasting in exciting ways. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to speak at the IEEE BTS. And part of what I discussed there was convergence. Convergence. Here's the definition. A difference or conflict of interests, wishes, and technologies that come together from different directions so as to eventually meet in chaos. Synonyms for convergence include smartphones, tablets, and internet TV. Now, to be clear, if you pull out your dictionary and you're flipping through, you're not going to find convergence there. I totally made it up. The definition, too. And at the time, I was focused on how things seemed totally upside down because we were starting to see things like video, real video, not postage stamp size, 5 frames per second slideshows, but real video on phones. And we were starting to see applications on TV. But today, I think the premise of die convergence still holds, but we're beginning to see integrations take place that move us beyond chaos, which is a necessary first step, but it takes us beyond chaos and into the next phase of innovation. HTML5, a web language, in the runtime environment of ATSC3, a broadcast standard, is a good example, as is the activation of FM tuner chips on cell phones. These are both examples of integrating different and diverse technologies to create new and better user experiences. And that leads me to Pilot, the evolution of NAB Labs. NAB Labs was started in 2012 to foster innovation in broadcasting. Pilot takes this the next step and invites new types of integrations and larger conversations. We have expanded our membership with 8 new charter members that are actively engaged with broadcasters on developing new and innovative solutions. Accenture, Akamai, Frankly, Google, Lacana, Nielsen, Shareably, and Yahoo are the charter members of Pilot and will be working directly with our core broadcast members and the NAB technology team through this program. We also hired John Clark to lead this effort as the executive director of Pilot. John brings a unique mix of commercial, academic, and experimental experience. John worked for a broadcast company for over a decade. He ran one of the nation's most successful websites. He helped to build and launch the first local broadcasting mobile phone application in 2004. I'll remind you that the iPhone didn't come out until 2007. And most recently, he ran the Digital News Lab at UNC Chapel Hill. This new membership and this new leadership adds diverse backgrounds, ideas, and experiences that will enable broadcaster innovation, and I'm excited about where it can take us. We have some big challenges ahead, like the channel repacking that will follow the spectrum auction. The FCC has models that will require as many as 1,300 stations to change channels. And while no one can accurately, I would say, predict, and lots of predictions, but while no one can predict exactly how long the auction will take or how much spectrum will be impacted, we have done some serious work on looking at the resources required to implement channel repacking, and we continue to do our best to educate the FCC on what we believe will be required to execute properly on an endeavor of this scale. With challenge comes opportunity. Post-auction, we will have to do more with less. And how will we do that? I'm sure you all read about the petition for rulemaking that we filed last week, along with our friends at the Consumer Technology Association, the Association for Public Television Stations, and the A-Warren Alliance. This is a great step towards the adoption of ATSC 3.0, the next generation of television. So many people worked very hard to get us this far. The committee meetings, the debates, the plug fests, the debates, the conference calls, the debates, the field tests, the debates, the candidate standards, and yes, the debates. And some would call them arguments, but we'll stick with debates. They have been very constructive, and all of those debates are for good reason and help bring consensus on the best possible next generation standard. And this petition is really just the starting gate. And our technology team has done yeoman's work as part of the ATSC, and some of their work is on display at this show. I want to call special attention to our ATSC 3.0 consumer experience. With tremendous support from our partners at the Consumer Technology Association, the ATSC, and many, many others, we have a model home that gives a glimpse, an early view of what kind of wonderful consumer experiences that will be made possible by broadcasting in ATSC 3.0. This is all just down the hall at the west entrance to the upper level of the South Hall. And we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And at Futures Park, which is at the east end of South Hall Upper, you can also see the pilot home gateway prototype in action. This is a first-of-its-kind demonstration as the gateway uses the upper layers of the ATSC 3.0 standard to showcase the interactivity that Next Generation provides. We built this prototype to demonstrate the power and the flexibility of HTML5 layout and interactivity, IP data casting solutions, zoned and targeted advertising, and how local news stations can leverage all of these tools. And we're also integrating advanced real-time measurement by leveraging the expertise of Yet Analytics, a big data startup company that the NAB invested in just last year. And as I wrap up, I must invite you to join us on Wednesday, when we will be celebrating some of our industry's greatest leaders at the Technology Luncheon. Please come hear from one of the preeminent futurists on the immersive storytelling and power of virtual reality. Ted Schilowitz, co-inventor of the Red Camera and currently 20th Century Fox's futurist, is sure to delight. We will also celebrate Rich Chernock, Andy Laird, and Adam Simpson with Achievement and Leadership Awards. And you'll have a chance to win one of 3 drones from B&H Photo and an ultra-high definition television set from LG Electronics, who is our sponsor for the luncheon. If you don't already have a ticket, you can pick one up at the registration center, which is in the North Hall. There is so much to see and do at this year's NAB show. I encourage everyone to take advantage of the unique networking opportunities that this gathering creates. I know that I intend to. I want to hear from you. I want to learn from you. I want to share ideas, challenges, and opportunities. And I want to thank you again for being here and encourage you to enjoy the show. Thank you.